Hi to everybody. Welcome to today's lecture on conversion of muscle to meat. In today's lecture, we will be dealing about the muscle cell metabolism and the rigor mortis. I hope you must have gone through my previous lectures on muscle structure and muscle contractions. You can understand these lectures only if you have gone through my previous lectures of muscle structure and muscle contractions. For the homeostasis, that is maintenance of physiological balanced internal environment, the cells require the energy. So what is the primary source of energy or the primary fuel for the muscle cell are the phosphocreatine, glycogen, glucose lactate, free fatty acids and triglycerides. The glucose and glycogens are the preferred substrate for the muscle metabolisms because they can be, the glucose and the glycogens can be utilized aerobically, that is through the oxidative phosphorylations, or anaerobically, as we see when we put a muscle under intensive exercise or during the rigor mortis. This glucose and glycogen can be utilized by the anaerobic glycolysis. So what is the problem with the utilization of lipids and the lactate? The lipid and lactate utilization require oxygens. As you know, the lipids are very high energy dense storage system and can produce more ATP per unit of substrate. Though it can produce more ATP per unit of substrate, however, the rate of synthesis of ATP is much slower than when glycogen is utilized. That is, for example, if you take, it is 1.5 micromole per kg per second for the free fatty acids or the triglycerides, compared to that of 3 micromole per kg per second for glycogen utilized aerobically and 5 micromoles per kg per second when glycogen is used anaerobically. So the rate of synthesis of ATP is faster when the primary fuel is the glycogen or the glucose. And the free fatty acids or the lipids are normally used when the activity of the muscle is of lower intensity. Then the muscle will be utilizing a high proportion of the energy source from the lipids that is stored in the muscle cells. Otherwise, muscle cells are depend upon the primary fuels, that is the glycogen and glucose. So what is the glycogen? Glycogen, just like in the case of plants, the carbohydrate is stored in the form of starch. In the case of animal cells, the carbohydrate is stored in the form of glycogen. Okay, so let's understand the properties of the ATP, that is the energy currency of the cell. Okay, ATP is nothing but the energy currency of the cell. So ATP is a large molecules and not stable. Since it is a large and unstable, our body cannot store ATP for more than 5 to 10 seconds. So what is happening to the ATP that is synthesized? So the ATP will be converted into ADP within 5 to 10 seconds. But the energy currency is always required for our body to maintain the homeostasis. So the ATP should be continuously generated to maintain the homeostasis. So for the synthesis of the ATP, 3 ATP generator system is very important, or it is working to produce the ATP. The first is the glycolysis. So what is glycolysis? It is nothing but the conversion of glucose to pyruvate, which will be taking place in the cytosol. Then we have the Krebs cycle or a TC cycle, where the pyruvate is converted into acetyl coenzyme A, and then we have the electron transport system, or the together we can call or the oxidative phosphorylations. We can say the electron transport system and the oxidative phosphorylations. Okay, so here we can see during the electron transport or the oxidative phosphorylation, so we can get around 32 ATP, and during the TCA cycle or citric acid cycle or the Krebs cycle we get around 2 ATP, and during the glycolysis we get 2 ATP. So from 1 molecules of glucose we will be getting around 36 ATPs. If it is the primary source is a glycogen, we will get around 38 ATP. If the primary source is the glucose, then we will be getting around 36 ATP. So let's see here the sequential events. The glucose is converted into pyruvate, that by glycolysis, and the pyruvate is converted into acetyl coenzyme A. Then acetyl coenzyme A is converted into ATP, NADH, FADH2 through the Krebs cycle. Then through the electron transport system, all ATP, NADH, PFDH2 is converted into ATP. Okay, this is how the ATP is synthesized in the muscle cells during the aerobic process, or it is called as aerobic glycolysis. So aerobic glycolysis, this is what happening. Now let's see what is the use of this ATP, or the energy currency of the cell is nothing but the ATP. How this ATP is used? So we have seen during the muscle contractions, the ATP is utilized for the power stroke. Okay, to maintain the homeostasis, cell always attempt to maintain its ATP level, as ATP is required for the metabolic reactions and ion transport. So we know that myosin will constitute around 20 to 30% of the total protein of the muscles. So since you know the myosin will have the myosin ATPase. So we have seen what is myosin ATPase. This myosin ATPase will hydrolyze the ATP to ADP plus inorganic phosphates, and that leads to the power stroke. The energy will be produced, and that energy is used in the power stroke. So it is one of the research papers says that the ATP is split at the rate of 0.5 to 0.65 micromole per gram of muscle per minute at 38 degrees centigrade. So the myosin ATPase is greatly involved in the hydrolysis of ATP. So myosin ATPase is utilizing the most of the ATP in the muscle cells to create the power stroke. Okay, and in the resting muscles, if the muscle has to rest, the myosin is bound to the, during the resting state, the myosin is not bound to the actin, and the ATP splitting is inhibited by the millimolar concentration of the magnesium. We already seen that during the muscle contraction classes. So during the muscle contractions, we know that the calcium ion should increase from 10 to the power of -7 to 10 to the power of -6 to 10 to the power of -5 level. The calcium should increase, and at ATPase activities is increased around 3 to 500 fold times than in the resting stage. You understood? So when the calcium concentration increase, calcium ion concentration increase in the sarcoplasm, the myosin ATPase activity increase around 300 to 500 folds. So more ATP will be utilized. This increase in the calcium ion concentration occurs not only during the contraction, but also during the rigor mortis development. So during the rigor mortis also, the calcium ion concentration will be increased. So if you want to bring into the relaxed state, again the calcium should be pumped back into the sarcoplasmic reticulum. So for the transportation of the calcium ion into the sarcoplasmic reticulum from the sarcoplasm, against the concentration gradient, again the ATP is required. So this also we have seen during the muscle contractions. So what is happening due to stop of blood circulation? So when we do the exanguination, the stoppage of oxygen supplies is initiated, as the stoppage of oxygen will be taking place. So when there is no blood circulation, what happens is the oxygen is not supplied to the cells. So it initiates the anaerobic glycolysis, and the end product being formed is the lactic acids. So even when we do the exercise, when we do the intensive exercise, we know there is a lactic acid accumulation, but this lactic acid is carried in the blood, and it will be going to the liver, where it will be converted into carbon dioxide and water, or it will be converted again back into the glucose, and the glucose will be converted into the glycogen. It will be stored. Okay, but when the animal is dead, the circulatory system is collapsed, so the lactic acid is not taken back to the liver, or it will not, through the bloodstream it will not be passing, because there is no blood circulations. So lactic acids will start accumulating in the muscles. So normally in the muscles we can find 0.05%, but during the anaerobic glycolysis, the end product is a lactic acid, which we are going to see. The lactic acid concentration will be increased to 0.5 to 1%. The accumulation of H plus from the lactate will also be taking place. So H plus from the lactate H plus ion will also be taking place, and the ATP hydrolysis account for the pH decline in the muscle, or during the conversion of muscle to meat. So two things are happening. One is the lactic acid accumulation is there, because lactic acid is not taken by the blood circulatory system back to the liver, so it will be start accumulating in the muscle or in the meat, or during the conversion of muscle to meat. Another is there is accumulation of H plus ions, so this will leads to pH decline also. So since there is no oxygen supply, there is a shifting from the aerobic glycolysis to the microaerophilic or anaerobic glycolysis will be taking place. So in the absence of oxygen, in the presence of oxygen, there is more energy. That's what I told you. We get around 36 ATP is formed from glucose molecules. But during the anaerobic, in the absence of oxygen, lesser energy is, that is the stage of anaerobic metabolism. So here, when the oxygen supply is stopped, it shifts from the aerobic to the anaerobic metabolisms. So the glucose is converted into pyruvate, or the pyruvic acids, and the final product that is formed is the lactate. So glucose is converted into pyruvate, and the final product, or the end product formed is the lactate, and plus the net ATP that is formed is the 2 ATP. So in the aerobic glycolysis we get 36 ATP, but in the anaerobic glycolysis we get only 2 ATP. So after some time the cells will not be able to maintain the homeostasis, because the ATP production is less. So let's see what is the difference between aerobic and anaerobic glycolysis. So aerobic glycolysis, already we've seen it take place in the cytoplasm. It also, anaerobic glycolysis also take place in the cytoplasm. Then it is followed by the Krebs cycle. It will be the oxidative phosphorylations, and here then the ATP produced is 36. Here the ATP produces only 2 ATP. Okay, so this is a difference between aerobic and anaerobic glycolysis. So just remember that in the anaerobic glycolysis, when there is a sufficient oxygen is there, 36 ATP will be produced from a single glucose, but here only 2 ATP is produced. So the energy production, or the energy currency of the cell becomes reduced during the anaerobic glycolysis. So now let's understand what is the role of creatine phosphate. So creatine phosphate is also called as intermediate source of ATP. So what is happening to how the creatine phosphate is formed? In the resting muscle, the excess ATP, so in the resting muscles, if there is excess ATP, this ATP we know that it can be stable for only 5 to 10 seconds. So that ATP transfer its energy to the creatine, producing the ADP. So it will be producing the ADP and the creatine phosphates. This creatine phosphate act as an energy resource. So this creatine phosphates will act as an energy resource that can be utilized quickly to generate the ATP. So you know that during the aerobic glycolysis, some quantity of ATP will be there. So during the muscle contraction, we require more ATP. So this creatine phosphates will act as an energy resource that can be used to quickly create the ATP. And when the muscles start to contract, and since it needs more energy, the creatine phosphate transfer its phosphate back to the ADP. So the creatine phosphate transfer its phosphate back to the ADP, and it will generate the ATP, and this ATP will be used by the myosin ATPase, and for the calcium pump this ATP can be utilized. So this creatine phosphates, once the level drops to 75% of the initial level, then the ATP starts to decline. So as the creatine phosphate is utilized, when the completely creatine phosphate is utilized, it will shift from the shift to the anaerobic glycolysis. However, the anaerobic glycolysis cannot generate ATP as quickly as creatine phosphates. So creatine phosphates will act as an intermediate source of energy. So you can see here creatine. The creatine is a amino acids that is commonly found in the meat, and it forms the creatine phosphates. The molecule stored ATP energy. The creatine plus ATP to form the creatine phosphates. Creatine plus ATP, it forms the creatine phosphates plus the ADP. So creatine phosphates will give its phosphate groups to the ADP during when the energy ATP is required. So what the creatine phosphate will do, it will give the phosphate groups phosphate back to the ADP, so the ATP will be formed, and we get the creatine plus the ATP. So this ATP is utilized by the myosin ATPase or calcium ATPase. Myosin ATPase will be using this ATP for the power stroke or for the contractions, and the calcium ATPase will be using this ATP to pump back the calcium back into the sarcoplasmic reticulum. So we have seen that in the muscle contraction lecture. So let's see the how this energy source are utilized. So during the muscle contraction, the first source of energy, that is the ATP, that is already formed during the microaerobic glycolysis, that will be utilized, or during the aerobic glycolysis that will be utilized. And if you see the concentrations on the dry muscle weight basis, it is around 25 millimoles per kg. Once this ATP is utilized, the next source of ATP is the phosphocreatine. So phosphocreatine will give its phosphate back to the ADP, and it produces the ATP. And if you see its concentration is around 100 millimole per kg on dry muscle weight basis. When this complete creatine phosphate, say around 75% of the storage is utilized, then it will be shifting to the anaerobic glycolysis. Okay, anaerobic glycolysis, where the glycogen will be utilized, but the quantity of ATP that is generated is very less during the anaerobic glycolysis. So now the creatine phosphates, or the creatine, what you see for the human, if you want to have more energy, we can take lot of red meat and the fishes, which is containing lot of this amino acid, the creatine. Okay, so that can be used as a energy store, we can say. That is why we find nowadays the athletes will be taking the athletes are advised to take a lot of red meat. So as a supplement, these creatines are used as creatine monohydrate powders. They are using it. Then micronized creatine powders, they use it as a supplement to increase their energy. Even this is also used, the creatine, the studies also show that the creatine also increase the sexual libido also. That is, it converts the testosterone into more active form. Okay, So that is why we advise to take the red meat if you want to improve your athletic performance, because this creatines will act as an energy immediate source of ATP. And so since it is the in between these two, it is called as an intermediate source of energy. So the creatine phosphates or the phosphocreatine is the intermediate source of energy. So here you can see this immediate source is the aerobic pathways. You know that 36 or 38 ATP is formed. It depends upon the primary fuel that is used. And intermediate source of energy is the creatine phosphates. So the creatine phosphates plus ATP. So we have seen this one. It will form ATP plus creatine. So this reaction is brought about by the enzyme creatine kinase. When the creatine is utilized, so when the creatine level is dropped around 70%, 75% of its original level, the ATP starts to decline. So naturally, to maintain the homeostasis from the aerobic glycolysis, it will be shifting to the anaerobic glycolysis. So anaerobic glycolysis, only the quantity of ATP formed is very less. That is, it's 2 or 3 ATP. It depends upon the primary fuel that is used. And it forms the lactic acid. So the anaerobic glycolysis, the end product is the lactic acids plus 2 ATP. So let's see what is the difference between the muscle. What is muscle and the meat we should understand. Muscle is a intermediate, muscle is a contractile unit or the contractile tissues which help in the locomotion. Then what is meat? So after this lectures you can understand what is meat. So here you see the live animals. So live animals, then we have the intermediate stage. From this live animals, after slaughter, we get what is called as meat. So for the conversion of muscle to meat, it has to undergo an intermediate stage. What is this intermediate stage? It is nothing but the rigor mortis. So you can see this is the rigor mortis. So live animal, the muscle is present or only when the muscles after the completion of the rigor mortis, it is called as a meat. I think now it's clear. So once you take the muscle means it's a contractile tissues which help in the locomotion, we can say. It has to undergo during the rigor mortis, it will be undergoing lot of physical and biochemical changes, that is during the rigor mortis. After this physical and biochemical changes, then only we get what is called as a meat. So why the muscle should get converted into meat? Only when the muscle get converted to the meat, it increase the flavor, it increase the juiciness, it increase the tenderness. So if you are eating the muscle, you are not releasing it. Only when you eat meat, you will be able to release it, because when compared to the muscle, the meat will be more tender, it will be more juicier, and it will be having more flavor. Is it clear? So the muscle should get converted into meat. For the conversion, it has to undergo the process called as rigor mortis. So during the rigor mortis, lot of physical and biochemical changes will be taking place, which we'll be going to discuss in the coming slides. So let's enter into the rigor mortis. So the first step in the rigor mortis is, or the conversion of muscle to meat, is immobilization and exsanguination. So what is immobilization? Immobilization means it is nothing but the stunning. We are studied about the stunning in detail during the stunning lectures. So we can do stunning by the mechanical methods, electrical methods, or the gaseous method. So it varies from species to species. Mechanical methods, we know that mechanical methods commonly followed for the large ruminants. Electricals we follow for the pigs and the small ruminants, and the gaseous stunnings will be following for the pigs and for the poultry. Okay, so the first step for the conversion of muscle to meat is the immobilization. Okay, so after the immobilization, we go with the next step, that is exsanguination, or sticking, or in the commonly we called as a bleeding. So what is happening? That is, during stitching operation, generally we go with the cutting of the large blood vessel that is supplying to the brain. There is a jugular vein and the carotid arteries will be cut. Okay. So once you cut the blood supply, what happens is the blood supply stops, leading to, so the oxygen transmission is stopped, or the circulatory collapse will be taking place. There will not be sufficient oxygen for the metabolism to take place. So since there is no oxygen, muscle can no longer maintain the body temperature, because you know the circulatory system is the one which maintains the body temperature also. Okay, there are only through the blood will be carrying the heat that is produced during the cell metabolisms. It goes to the lungs, from the lungs through the nostrils it will be released, and through the skins also, through the skin surface, all the heat will be released. When the circulatory system is collapsed, the heat, that is why when you touch with your hands near the nose, the nostrils, we find the warm air is coming out, that what we breathe out. Okay, so once the circulatory system is collapsed, what happens is the cell metabolism, that is from the aerobic, it will be shifting to the anaerobic glycolysis. So from the aerobic glycolysis it will be shifting to the anaerobic glycolysis to maintain the homeostasis. So once the circulatory system is collapsed, it is a beginning of series of post-mortem changes in the muscles. So there will be a lot of physical and biochemical changes will be taking place. That is, the rigor mortis will be taking place. So let's understand what is homeostasis. So homeostasis, it is defined as the maintenance of physiologic balanced internal environment. This includes maintenance of pH, temperature, oxygen concentration and energy supply. This is controlled by the endocrine glands. This is controlled by the endocrine glands and the nervous system also. This will be controlled by the endocrine glands and the nervous system. The concepts of homeostasis becomes very important during the conversion of muscle to meat. So immediately after the slaughter, the carcass undergoes various reaction to maintain the internal environment as in the living animals. So immediately after the slaughter, you know that a lot of reactions take place to maintain the internal environment as in the living animals. So that's what we can see. The homeostasis, physiologically balanced internal environment, help to maintain the body to cope up with the stress of oxygen deficiency. So once the exsanguination takes place, the oxygen will not be passed since there is a circulatory collapse. There will be extreme variations in the temperature will be also taking place, because the circulatory system is collapsed. The heat productions during the metabolism will not be taken back through the circulatory systems. So the heat will be variating, energy supply will be lost. So this leads to a lot of physical and biochemical changes. So homeostasis is nothing but maintenance of physiological balanced internal environment. Okay, so homeostasis is controlled by the nervous system, which ceases within 4 to 6 minutes after bleeding. So in the absence of blood supply, there is a loss of body heat and temperature start declining. So exsanguinations, as I told you, after the bleeding there is a circulatory collapse. So since there is a circulatory collapse, the oxygen supply to the muscle will decrease. Since the oxygen supply is decreased, there is a shifting from the aerobic to the anaerobic pathway. That is, from the aerobic glycolysis to the anaerobic glycolysis will be taking place to maintain the homeostasis. So let's see what is happening during the postmortem heat production and dissipation. As a result of exsanguination, the important temperature control mechanism in the muscle is lost. That's what I told, the circulatory collapse and so on. Heat is generated, however, the cells try to maintain the homeostasis, for which the energy is required. That is, it will be utilizing the glycogens that is stored in the muscle cells, and during the metabolisms the temperature will rise. So initially we find there is a rise in the muscle temperatures because the circulatory system is collapsed, so it will not be taken to the lungs. Okay, the blood through the blood is not taken now. So initially we find the body temperature is high. After some times or after some hours we can find it became cool. This is because it became equal to the temperature of the surroundings. Okay, so this is why we find initially we find after a few hours the temperature of the body became very chill. Okay, initially we don't find that. So by measuring the temperature also we can say when the person has died or when the animal has died, we can find it out. That is what they do in the forensic medicines also. The heat dissipation depends upon what? So it depends upon size and location of the muscles. If the size is very huge, naturally the dissipation of the heat will be slower. If the muscle is located in the deeper part of the body, again the dissipation of the heat will be slower in that particular muscles. Next is the fat covering. So you know that fat is an insulator. So if the fat cover is more, the dissipation of the heat will be less. So again, if you do scalding and singeing, as in the case of pigs or in the poultry, again that will also reduce the heat dissipation. Ambient temperature of the slaughter room. So if the slaughter room temperature is is high, again the dissipation of the heat will be slower. The duration of the slaughter and dressing operation, the temperature of the initial chill rooms, all these factors will be affecting the heat dissipations from the carcass. So coming to the rigor mortis. So what is rigor mortis? Rigor mortis is nothing but the stiffening of the muscles, or the muscles lose its extensibility. So why it is occurring, we'll see. So in the rigor mortis, there are 4 phases of rigor mortis, we can say. One is called as a delay phase, another is the onset phase, completion phase, and resolution of rigor. So we'll see one stage by stage. What is delay phase? ATP in the muscles. So if the animal is well fed, the glycogen storage is plenty in the muscles, then the muscle will remain in the relaxed state. Okay, relaxed state, and no cross bridge between the thick and the thin filament will be occurs, because there will be sufficient ATP, so it prevents the cross bridges between the actin and myosin. So that is called as a delay phase. When the ATP levels start decreasing, okay, once the ATP levels start decreasing, then it leads to the onset phase. So then you go into the next stage, that is called as onset stage. So first is a delay phase, then rigor onset phase. So as the store of ATP and the creatine phosphates are used up, a rigor bond between the thick and thin filament will be formed, and the thick and thin filament cross bridge that is formed into actin and myosin. As more bonds are formed, the muscle loses extensibility. The muscle will lose its extensibility because there is no ATP. As the ATP levels decrease, there is no ATP to pump the calcium from the sarcoplasm to the sarcoplasmic reticulum. So the calcium will be more. So when the calcium is more, naturally you know that actin and myosin will bind. So to bring to the relaxed state, there is no ATP, so the onset phase will start. So as the onset stage phase will be formed, when complete ATP is used, there is leads to another condition called as a rigor, third phase, that is a rigor completion. During this phase, almost 100% of the actin and myosin will be binding. During the normal muscle contraction, only 20 to 30% of the actin and myosin will be binding, but during the rigor mortis, almost 100% of the actin and myosin will bind, and it becomes so tough, and it will lose its complete extensibility, or the elasticity will be lost. Then we have the fourth stage, that is called as a resolution of rigor mortis. During this phase, there is a decrease in the tensions. Okay, so during this phase, lot of proteolytic enzymes will be acting, that is calpines and cathepsin will be acting, which we'll be discussing in the coming slides. So a resolution of the rigor will be there. During the resolution, the proteolytic degradation of the specific myofibrillar proteins result in the dissociation or dissolution of the Z disc, which will be seen, and loss of ultra structural integrity will be there. So till here it will be very tough, then it will be becoming very tender. So after the completion of the rigor mortis, it will be soft, and lot of chemical changes will be taking place. So the more flavor components will be formed. So this is what happening during the rigor mortis. So first there is a delay phase, then the onset phase. When complete ATP is used, it enter into what's called as a completion. It is what is called completion phase. Then the proteolytic enzymes, as the pH and the calcium ion concentration increases, certain endogenous enzymes will be there, that will be acting like calpains and cathepsin will be acting, and there is, it leads to a condition, it leads to the last stage, that is the resolution of rigor mortis. So you can see here the delay phase. So you can see here onset phase, it begins to occur, completion phase, the extensibility is lost. The muscle is extended and elastic. So the delay phase, the muscle is relaxed state. So once the onset phase, the extensibility the muscles begin to lose its extensibility, and during the completion phase, it will become more rigid or more tough. That is a completion phase. Then the last stage is the resolution of rigor mortis. So we can see here during the delay phase, onset phase, okay, the creatine phosphates, as the creatine phosphate decreases, the ATP, you can see here the ATP is decreasing. As the ATP is decreasing, the pre-rigor condition, there is no cross bridge between the actin and myosin. So as the pH decreases, the calcium will be leaking out from the sarcoplasmic reticulum, and the ATP is not there for pumping the calcium back, so there will be cross bridges will be formed. So during the completion of rigor mortis, all the actin and myosin will be formed to form actomyosins. Then in the post rigor, against this cross bridges, the Z lines all will be degraded, and it comes to more softer forms. Okay, this is what happening. So we can find here the lactic acid is accumulating. So in the initial stage, in the normal muscles, it will be 0.05%. So since during the when the circulatory system is collapsed, the lactic acid is not the lactic acid formed during the anaerobic glycolysis is not taken back to, it's not taken to the liver, so it will start accumulating. So its concentration keeps on increasing, and along with that, there is also H plus ion concentration will be increasing. The pH will also start, due to that the pH will also start. Normally the muscle pH is around 7.1 to 7.2. When it is getting converted into the meat, that is called as ultimate pH, which comes around 5.4 to 5.6, which I'll be discussing in our coming classes. The decreasing pH and accumulation lactic acid, all I'll be discussing in our coming classes. So here we have seen the extensive. So we see the approximate estimate of rigor phases in the carcass kept at ambient temperature 30 degree. Okay, so cattle, it's around 6 to 7 hours. Onset phase 7 to 20 hours. Resolution, it's take place in 36 hours. Sheep and goat, delay phase is up to 3 hours. Onset phase is 3 to 8 hours. Resolution in 24 hours of death. Pig, up to 4 hours, it will be a delay phase. This is an approximate, I'm telling. Okay, onset phase 4 to 10 hours. Resolution in 26 hours of death. Rabbit, up to 4 hours, 4 to 19 hours. Onset phase 19 to 26 hours. Poultry, 40 minutes, up to 40 minutes, it will be in the delay phase. Then onset phase, the rigor state is 40 bleeded. The nutrient supplied to the tissues or the muscle cells will be lost, or all the cells it will be lost. Antioxidant supplies will be lost. So that will leads to lipid oxidations. Okay. So next what happens is neural and the hormonal regulations will be lost. So first there will be slight rise in the temperature, because even after the death each cell tried to maintain the homeostasis, that is the metabolisms will be still going on in the cells to maintain the body temperature. So but there is no circulatory system to take the heat that is produced during the cell metabolisms. So initially there will be slight rise in the temperature, then it falls to the surrounding temperatures. So because of the lowering of the temperature, there can be also the solidification of the fat. Suppose if we keep it in the chiller, the carcass temperature or the meat temperature will come equal to that of the surrounding temperature. So in that temperature the solidification of the fat can also be take place. Since there is no oxygen supply to the cells, oxidation reduction potential will be decreased. So it will be shifting from the aerobic glycolysis to the anaerobic glycolysis. So what I'm telling here is the sequence of the changes that we can come during the rigor mortis. Okay, the oxygen supplies will be lost, so the oxidation reduction potential will be decreased. So from the aerobic glycolysis we'll be shifting to the anaerobic glycolysis. So lactic acids will be starting, will be accumulating, and the pH will start falls, because you know that in the anaerobic glycolysis the end product is the lactic acids. So since there is no circulatory system is collapsed, the lactic acid that is formed cannot be taken to the liver, so it will be start accumulating. So the concentration will be increasing from 0.05% to 0.5 or 1% like, and the pH will be. So, and there will be a protein denaturation. As the pH decreases, there will be a release of calciums and other things. Because of the release of the calcium, the endogenous endogenous enzymes activity will be increasing, and that leads to the protein denaturation. And because of the reduce in the pH, the water holding capacity and the color will also be changing. We will be discussing this in the coming classes in detail about all these things. And osmotic equilibrium will be lost, and the blood-borne defense, that is defense mechanism, will also be lost. So once the animal is slaughtered, the blood circulation is not there, the neural system will be lost, and the defense mechanism will also be lost. So that is why we find there is a microbial spoilage will be starting, will start taking place. Okay, so that is why we have to immediately chill to the lower temperature, so the rate of microbial spoilage will be slower. And one thing we have to remember is, since the defense mechanisms is lost, and you know the GI tract will be containing lot of microorganisms. Okay, once the defense mechanisms start is lost, what happens is this microorganism will start migrating from the GI tract into the muscles and the organs. So we have to do the evisceration as quick as possible, so that can extend the shelf life of the meat. So that is one practical application I just want to share. So let's see in a nutshell what is happening during the conversion of muscle to meat. So once the animal is slaughtered, first we have seen the steps. First is immobilization of the animal, that is done by stunning of the animal. Then we went with the exsanguinations. So once the animal is slaughtered, the aerobic glycolysis will be shifting to the anaerobic glycolysis due to oxygen, since oxygen will be depleted. So to maintain the homeostasis, initially the ATP is produced by the conversion of the creatine phosphates to ATP, that is by rephosphorylation of AD to ATP. And as the creatine phosphates declines, next there will be shifting off from the aerobic glycolysis to the anaerobic glycolysis. The glycogen will be used for the production of the ATP, and in the anaerobic glycolysis the end product is the lactic acids. So lactic acid will start accumulating, and the ions will also be start accumulating. H plus ions will be accumulating. So that will leads to the lower the muscle pH from 7.1 or 7.2 to 5.6. That is the 5.6 to 5.4 is the ultimate pH. Okay, so at this lower pH, the enzymes that is involved for the anaerobic glycolysis will also become inactive, or the glycogen content is almost become to nil. So further reductions or the further anaerobic glycolysis will not be taking place, so that it will be reaching the ultimate pH of around 5.4 to 5.6. Since the concentration of the ATP is reduced, the ATP complex with magnesium is required for breaking the actomyosin bonds, so and bring the muscle to the relaxed states. As it drops, the actin and myosin will form a permanent cross bridges. So the actin and myosin will be permanent cross bridges. So there will be shortening of the sarcomere, and the muscle will become into the complete rigor. So rigor means the stiffening of the muscles, and it lose the extensibility. So without ATP for relaxation, myosin 8 forms a tight bonds with the actin to form actomyosins. Okay, then the muscle gets into the full rigor states. When all the ATP is completely utilized, it get into the complete rigor, and that is stiffness of the depth. Okay, so during the rigor mortis we have seen different phases. That is delay phase, when there is a lot of ATP. There will be delay phase when the ATP start decreasing. When it comes to around 15% of the original concentrations, the onset phase will start. When complete ATP is utilized, there is a completion phase. So there is a completion phase. So here almost the 100% of the actin and myosin will bind to form actomyosin. Then this is followed by the resolution of the rigor mortis. And this is brought about by the endogenous enzymes like calpains and cathepsins, which we'll be discussing in the next lecture. So the mortis, where we'll be talking about in details about the calpains and cathepsins. Thank you very much for watching, and for watching this video, and I hope you are all keeping fine. Take care. God bless you all.